How's it going, everybody? Real world networking. What exactly does that mean? It means networking that you're going to see in the real world. I know I just turned around the words, but it's literally what it means. So what if we were to focus on networking concepts and implementations and stuff like that, but we're not focusing on it for a certification? It's been something I've been kicking around for a while, and it's one of those things where the longer I spend in the IT industry as both a engineer and as a instructor, I have realized that there is pretty much a gaping hole in the areas that I see a lot of people struggle in, myself included. That's it's easy to go learn how networking works, right? You go read a book, watch some videos, you get the theory down, that type of stuff, and then you go lab it up. Voila, you can get an entire network up and running in a matter of a few hours. Congratulations. You have labbed things up in a completely 100% controlled environment that there's no potential for you to screw anything up. And if you do, guess what? You put it back into play, no outages, no downtime. The business isn't screaming at you that things are down. Everybody's happy. That's not real networking, right? Where you're labbing stuff up and you're learning how the concepts implement, putting everything together. One of the things that I found realized about networking or I should say network training a long time ago, is that the network training that's out there is primarily always focused on helping the learner earn their certification, whatever that might be, CCNA, CCNP, VCP, MCSE, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that per se, right? From a academia perspective, right? You're learning, you're understanding how spanning tree works, or you're understanding how EIGRP works, that type of stuff. All those things are essential for you to be able to do your job, right? Most people wouldn't argue that. What most people will argue is how it can be tailored to a learning environment that will benefit the learner, right? So as someone that has not only been an engineer for a long time, I've architected networks, I have implemented networks, I have troubleshot them, I have been the reason why they've gone down, I have been the reason, I have not always been the reason why they were brought back up. I have been an instructor, I've been a trainer, whatever term you want to throw at it. Here on YouTube, on my own training websites, INE, NGT, all that stuff, right? All that is great, right? But the one thing that is common amongst all of the different training that I've done is controlled environments. So I thought to myself, I was like, I'm sitting, I did a cutover a couple weeks ago with a client of mine, and I had to drive to a co-location facility out in the Madison, Wisconsin area. So it was a 2-hour drive out, and we get out there, and the customer has a pair of 3850 switches that are stacked. So there's 2 of them, and there's a pair of stack cables connecting them together. And this pair of switches is used for the core. Everything literally connects into this. They had bought and deployed a pair of Nexus 9000, 9300, 93108s, I think. I deal with Nexus every day, so I've gotten much more comfortable with the Nexus platform. But they've got a pair of 9300s deployed, and they were on really old code, 703i7. And so we tried, another engineer had been lead on the project, and I was brought in to assist. Okay, it's no big deal. So I come in. I've got a stronger route switch background, so I get called to work on to come in and work on this this project. So I begin, and the other engineer is removed from the project and reallocated elsewhere. I end up taking over the project. He didn't do anything wrong per se, but I was put in place of this guy, and I'm going through and working through the project, and now I'm the one going to be leading the the cutover, and the cutover is a pretty simple one, right? The configs were already on the boxes. We had done a code upgrade, so I upgraded the operating systems on both 9Ks and all that type of stuff. So we were on 935 code, 937A code, I think, is what we upgraded to. At the time, it was the TAC recommended supported release. So we go through and get the upgrade done. Everything goes swimmingly with that. Customer's happy. And then we go and they're like, okay, we're ready to do the migration again. And so we had spent a lot of time trying to understand what exactly it was that what we were connecting into. And we realized that we were connecting into a pair of 9300s that were going to be connecting to a pair of 2200 or 2300, I don't know specifically which ones, fabric extenders, effects, that was owned by a parent switch, a Nexus 5600, I think. So, and I'm like, wait a minute. And as soon as I heard that's what the Colo had deployed, me and a couple of other engineers were like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Why are they connecting switches to fabric extenders? And because what typically will happen is a switch, any port that's layer 2 or is a trunk link, specifically a trunk, will send BPDUs, Bridge Protocol Data Units. And the BPDU has switch specific information to try to help figure out the spanning tree. Well, if you send a BPDU upstream to a fabric extender port, that fabric extender port has BPDU guard on and will immediately error disable the port. So you actually you can't connect a trunk link to on the 9300. You couldn't configure the interface that connects to the fax as a trunk. You have to configure it as an access port, and you have to turn BPDU filter on, which means it doesn't send BPDUs. So, and that works. So we did a code upgrade, and we went back through and didn't change any of the major config. There was a couple little tweaks here and there. I go through and I, prior to the deployment, which was supposed to happen at midnight this particular day, and I end up, we get on a call with the Colo, we get a call with the customer. The Colo engineers are trying to tell us that they don't need to do X, Y, Z, and I won't go into any specifics beyond what I've already talked about, but the Colo engineers are trying to tell us that the way that it was wired up previous to this should work. Like, okay, fine. And so now we're going through, and there are a number of topics were discussed throughout this call, and I am supposed to go and just move certain pieces of the migration over. Well, we couldn't get certain things to work, and they were, so I made the call. I said, let's just swing all the cables from the old to the new. Let's disconnect everything from the 3850 pair, bring them over to the 9300 pair, and we'll switch the routing, and everybody will be happy, right? So I took a little bit of a gamble, and we cut everything over. It took a little while to do it. There was a lot of ports that needed to get moved over, but we got them moved over, and eventually brought the network back online. And it was one of those type of situations where the network was hard down for about 45 minutes, right? The time that it takes to move all the cables. So, which is actually a pretty easy migration, right? It's when you're trying to migrate config and you're trying to change the routing as the network is operational. That's a little more complicated because now you're trying to change the logical, not the physical. And when you're trying to change the logical and how the logical is going to control how the physical moves the data, that's a little bit more involved sometimes, and it can be detrimental if you don't do it correctly. So we finally get everything up and running, and we're doing our testing, and everything's working. So we're okay. Go ahead and test the crap out of it. So we were testing all of the primary things, and we were testing failover, and I was like, okay, I'm on VPN. I was able to log in. All the things that we had failed in the previous attempt were working in this attempt. So So everything's looking really good, right? I'm happy. There was a couple little problems, and we troubleshot them, and I identified where they were relatively quickly, and we went ahead and fixed them. We were able to get everything working the way we wanted it to, and all of the different services that were supposed to be running at this colo facility and reachable over VPN and things like that, and through Citrix gateways and stuff like that, were 100% working. Nobody was calling back saying, hey, there's a problem. Everything was good. So I'm like, okay, this is good. So we're 2.5 hours into the change window, and at this point in time, it's a little after 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm starting to get a little bit tired, and because I had been up since 10 o'clock the morning before, right? So I had worked all day, plus drove, and then, I still have a 2-hour drive back home. And I didn't get a lot of sleep the night before because of other things, and I won't go into specifics. But so that's the stuff, right? The change window, the migration. Those are the things that, the outage windows, right? Those are the things that nobody, quote unquote, teaches for, right? No one covers how that should work or what the level of effort, LOE, I like to refer to it, the low. Nobody talks about the amount of effort that it takes to plan out and design a implementation plan, then a fallback plan, if something, or for a maintenance window, right? Maintenance windows can vary in size from just a few minutes. Hey, we're just going to go and change this static route, and then internet should go out this way, to very large windows where you're trying to cut over a entire data center. Regardless of what the change is, there's a number of things that need to be considered when you're doing a change. And that's the part where the certifications don't help you with that. The configuration guides don't help you with that. All the configuration guides are there to do is to give you the config commands and all the options that are available with it, and then some verification stuff to help you implement a particular feature. There's no, you can't go Google some of the things that you have to do as an engineer. And I was driving home. Now, mind you, I've been thinking about this for a long time, long before I ever got back into consulting. And I was thinking about it, and I'm driving home. It's going on 3:30 in the morning, and I'm about halfway home at this point. And so I'm driving down the interstate, and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, listen to the radio, and I'm thinking, okay, if I wanted to create content that was going to try to replicate what a real-world engineer would do, how would I do that? And I'm sitting there thinking, obviously I would immediately call the series Real-World Networking, right? And as I was going through and thinking about it, I was like, okay, what would I cover, right? I can't cover just routing and switching, right? Because there's a whole bunch of different things that go into a network, right? Routers, switches, firewalls, access points, wireless controllers, VPN concentrators, VPN gateways, servers, all kinds of other stuff, right? So as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I was like, okay, how would I do that? What topology would I come up with? Is there just one topology that you could use in order to do real-world networking? I'm like, no, there's hundreds of topologies you can come up with. It's like, okay, how would I do that? And so I was thinking about it, and I finally get home, and I'm not tired because I just finished driving. So I grabbed a little bite to eat, and I sat on the computer till about 6 o'clock in the morning. And I wasn't expected to be available for a call because everything had gone well. But I said, if anything happens, don't hesitate to give me a call. I'll help you out. But if something happens and you need help, it's probably going to be a 2-hour drive back to the colo to swap cables back to the old core. And that was kind of the situation we were in. There was really no, type a couple commands into a switch and voila, you're back up and running. You're going to be moving cables. So as I was sitting there thinking about it, I've actually come up with several different network diagrams using Eve. Come up with several different network diagrams, and every one of them I've incorporated quite a bit of stuff. Like, for example, I work with Nexus every day, the Nexus operating system. I deal with VMware daily. I deal with Palo Alto daily. I don't deal with a lot with ASA anymore. ASAs are kind of a thing of the past with the data centers or the customers that I work with. I deal with private WAN, MPLS, site-to-site VPNs, and stuff like that. And my primary job is to work with clients and help them. Like another client that I'm working with is we're looking to migrate their Nexus 7000 and 5000 environment off of the 7Ks and 5Ks over to all 9300s. So I'm working with them to figure out how all that type of stuff works. And we have a lot of calls. We get on Microsoft Teams and we talk through it, we plan. I've got probably 25 sheets of paper sitting on my other desk that's over here in the corner that covers has a lot of network diagrams drawn out, and I've worked through a number of Visio diagrams trying to get everything figured out how am I going to do this, documentation, spreadsheets that I've had to build, all the things that number one, certifications don't teach you. Number two, the things that you're never going to get tested on the certification exam, right? Even if you're going to talk about design, right? Even if you're talking about design, nobody talks about how you would actually do a migration or what you need to do in order to execute the migration. What are you migrating from? What are you migrating to? So that's where I came in, just thinking to myself, okay, how would I do a real-world networking video series? How long would it be? What would it entail? And I came to the realization it would be super, super long, but it wouldn't be one topology, right? It wouldn't be one topology. It would be several different topologies over the course of time, covering a bunch of different things. And stuff, there would be a level of certification, but it wouldn't be necessarily, hey, this is spanning tree protocol, this is what it's designed to do. But I was also thinking to myself, okay, what if somebody is potentially studying for their CCNA, or they have their CCNA and they're trying to work on, say, CCNP or whatever else? Do I assume that whoever's watching has their CCNA and understands the basic terminology, or am I dealing with somebody, to what is the minimum acceptable level that I start to teach from? What is my base? Am I starting from CCNA? Am I starting from Network Plus? What is my barrier to? What is the viewer's barrier to entry needed? What is that level of understanding needed in order for them to be able to go through the series? And I decided that CCNA was sufficient, right? If you've got a CCNA or you're working on CCNA and you're pretty much there, you should be able to understand most of the terms because it's a baseline certification, right? So I decided CCNA was sufficient enough, which means that, number one, you already have a baseline, right? Even if you have like a Network Plus or you've taken the CCT route switch or something like that, you should have a baseline understanding of how networking works. And not necessarily a super strong implementer, but somebody that understands what a VLAN is, what trunking is, what spanning tree is, what basic routing looks like, stuff like that. Because then as long as you have a base foundation, you can take that base foundation. I could talk about a particular feature or technology in a few minutes and help you explain it, maybe introduce it to you for the first time, and then implement it. Like, okay, here's technology A, and this is how you would implement technology A. But I was like, okay, well, that's like the certification piece to it. But I'm not trying to build a certification. I'm trying to build a series of content around the stuff that I have to deal with. And I was like, okay, do I talk about how I had to sometimes get on calls with clients and work through a particular situation? And so I thought to myself, okay, how would I do that? And the answer to that question is simple. I would take some of the different experiences that I've had with clients and I would build use cases around some of the network diagrams that I've built. Some of them are unique. Some of them you probably would never see. Maybe. I don't know. But the bottom line is coming up with a solution to a customer's customer's needs, and being able to implement that. That's what delivery is all about, right? We're not on pre-sales where we're just trying to sell hardware, services, and hours to a client and hopefully make a profit off of it. We are going out and implementing, right? So that means change windows. That means trying to figure out what we can do, what we can't do. What is going to be in scope for work? What is a scope? What is a scope of work? What is a bill of material? So what I'm going to be doing throughout probably several hundred videos is going through and taking several different network topologies that you will be able to download from the shareable link if you become a member, and leveraging my experience as both an engineer and as an architect to come up with sometimes the network diagrams are like, what the heck is that? You're going to see some crazy stuff when you get into the industry. If you're already in the industry and you're doing any level of consulting or you're working with stuff, not everything is best practice. There will be things that are not best practice and intentionally done. And my goal will be to bring a level of, this is how the technology works. So there'll be a level of instruction. Maybe you've never touched a particular protocol or feature before, and I walk you through how it works. So there's going to be a level of instruction. There's a level of design. Okay, this is what the customer has brought to us, and we need to figure out how we're going to do this. Not everything, and you're going to realize, and I have this happen to me every once in a while, you're not, actually more than once, every once in a while, it's almost all the time, you're not going to know exactly off the top of your head how to fix it or what to implement. You might have to talk through it and be like, okay, there's a couple different ways that we can do that. The customer, and I will be bringing this in as a topic of discussion, sometimes the customer will say, okay, which one do you think is the best one? Or which way is the right way to do for our environment? And be our advocate. And you're going to get that type of stuff where, being the engineer, things to me are very binary. You have works and doesn't work, right? There's two different ways of doing it, right? So sometimes you have to take that line of thinking and be like, okay, there's a couple different ways we can do with it. This is what I would recommend we do. And sometimes your reasoning for that is it's the easiest to implement. Other times, the reason why you're putting that particular feature in is because that is the only other option there is. Every use case is different. Every use case is going to be unique, and you have to be. Sometimes it's going to be hard for you to justify why you're doing X, Y, Z. Sometimes you might have to take a step back and be like, you know what? I'm really not sure how I would fix that, and you might have to bring in other resources, talk to somebody else, see what am I overlooking this? Is what I'm trying to do stupid? That's the only way you're going to grow as an engineer, is to face the reality of I don't know and deal with it head on. So that's what I am planning on doing in this series, is bringing a bunch of different scenarios, a bunch of different solutions, a bunch of different use cases, and we're going to walk through use cases. We're going to walk through, it's not going to be just 10 videos on OSPF and 8 videos on EIGRP and 45 videos on BGP, and then, like what you would expect to see in like a CCNP Encore series. Eventually, the topology I'm about to show you will cover the CCNP Encore and NRC topics. But not only will it show you that, and not only will I whiteboard out how the technology works and that type of stuff, but it will also, okay, here's how we implement it in this particular area. So there'll be a design aspect, because I am not unofficially studying for my CCDE. There will be a aspect of, okay, now that we've got that implemented, the customer has brought a new requirement. Okay, so you did this project, because one thing you're going to realize about dealing with clients is They might have this entire network built, but you're only looking at 2% of it, right? And you know that 2% inside and out, and because you spent some time learning it, and then the customer signs another project with your company and says, okay, I want you to do this now. I need you to start looking over here. So you have to go learn that part of their network. And before you know it, they like you, they like working with you, and you're the person that they come to, guy or girl, and say, okay, hey engineer, we want you to work on this, right? And so you might not have ever worked on that thing before. Well, maybe you're not the right person to be doing that project. Even though they like you, you might not be the right person for it. But if you're like me, your customers come first, and especially when you're working, you're gonna go and put in the necessary effort to try to get them where they need to be. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to walk through a number of scenarios that are going to be like, they're probably going to scare you. Some of them, I might get some pretty gnarly comments in the comment section, be like, Rob, what are you thinking? The bottom line here is that when I was developing this and planning it out and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, one, topology was never going to work, and I realized that a while back. Two, simply just covering the topics that are on the blueprint for an exam wasn't sufficient. Number three, if I wanted to be successful with this series, I needed to bring in multiple elements, right? We're going to talk about a bunch of different technologies. We're going to talk about a bunch of different platforms. Some of them are going to, the majority of them, there's going to be, talk about what the technology is and how you would implement it. The design aspect of it. Why would you use that particular way of doing something? For example, implementing HA and Palo Alto firewalls is not straightforward sometimes. But we're going to talk about that, go through the implementation of it, and then look at what it is that we learn from it. So it's all about trying to understand exactly why things are done the way that they are. Then we're going to talk about, okay, statement of work, or I'm sorry, change window. Okay, you've worked through this project to this point, and now it's time to actually start implementing the solution. Maybe you've already done some level of work and the equipment is up and running, but now it's time for you to do the actual cutover, right? It's very rare for me to do anything net new. Net new meaning that the customer doesn't already have something deployed. I'm technically speaking, with one of my customers, I am doing a net new, all new hardware, and we're building this thing in parallel to their existing environment. We've had a bunch of different discussions on how to fix different things, and then we're going to, at some point here in the near future, we're just going to start swinging cables over from the old to the new, and eventually get them onto the new infrastructure. And when the old infrastructure is completely disconnected from the old environment, we'll be able to power it down and get rid of it. That's the goal. A lot of things go into play when it comes to migrations, and a lot of thought has to be done, and you have to, you're trying to make sure that you don't miss anything, or you don't leave anything untouched. No stone unturned, for lack of a better word. Those are the things we're going to be working through, and going through, for example, a change window. How do you write a change window? What happens if something goes wrong in your change window? What do you do? Do you call somebody? Do you roll back to, or what if you're 95% of the way through your change window and there's a catastrophe? Well, sometimes it doesn't matter. It could be 95% of the way. 95% is not 100. So then you have to roll all of the changes back. Start removing them. Have a plan. How do I do that? What do I need? What do I need to configure in order for that to happen? So when we go through this, it's going to be a lot of, how will we get this into work? Then developing the configurations, right? Looking at the device, or look at the configuration guides, as well as looking at, developing the configs. And we are going to hit snags. Like, okay, this isn't going to work. You will, I guarantee it, try to deploy something in a lab, and it won't work. Like, okay, this is my first thought, so let's test it out. So we'll throw it into a lab, right? You kind of like what I'm about to show you right here. You have this lab in front of us that is rather involved, right? There's a lot going on, and we need to get something working. For example, maybe we need to set up DMVPN, or maybe okay, we added a couple new sites, so we need to add it to the MPLS environment, or whatever the case might be. Or I need to move a workload from this data center over to this data center, but I still need to be able to reach it, via VXLAN multi-site. There's a lot of different things that come into play with how the network comes together, and it will be our job to get it working and stuff like that. And the intention is to try to highlight what it's like to really be a network engineer, not just be, and not just follow somebody else's pre-built script, right? I've seen that done too. I've seen it where people have built a training methodology and a training program around a pre-built set of labs and all that type of stuff, and everything's been figured out, right? Everything's been figured out, but and all you're doing is literally just typing in commands, and it's like, I don't want to use the term the blind leading the blind, but what I will call it is the there's not a really, the blind leading the blind is the analogy I want to use, but it doesn't apply here. But it's leading the blind around in a area they'd never been, right? There's actually this TV show that I watch on Netflix called In the Dark, where the main character is blind, and she has a service dog called Pretzel. That's the dog's name. And I don't believe that the real actress is blind in real life. She portrays a blind person, and it's very evident that when she's going through different scenarios, she's, she doesn't know where she's at. She can't see what's going on. And so, but that's kind of like most of the students that I've dealt with that are at or below the CCNA level, when they look at something like this and they've been given a PDF of a set of commands to type in, unless they have a baseline understanding of networking and they've got the requisite prerequisite knowledge that they need to have in place in order for them to understand what it is they're typing in, why they're typing it in there. Unless they've had all that stuff already provided to them, that's the instruction, that's the design, that's the bill of material, that's the statement of work. Unless they understand the how and the why and the where, the commands that are just like a pre-built PDF that you just type whatever, okay, you're going to type XYZ in this particular area, unless the student understands what it is that they're typing in, it's leading the blind around an area they don't know. Eventually, they'll kind of figure it out. Most people do. They walk around, they familiarize themselves with their surroundings. They eventually learn where the bathroom is, where the front door, the back door are, and, where's the kitchen, that type of stuff, right? But, and they usually have that cane or that walking stick that help them determine, where stuff is at, so they can kind of map it out, because they don't have sight to figure it out. Because when you look at this topology and you look at it, looking at it just as a blank canvas, right? Look at it like I don't want to say a painting, maybe, okay, let's call it an outlined tattoo on somebody's arm, right? You can see, or an outlined tattoo on somebody's back, a very large back piece. You can, kind of, sometimes it might be hard for you to decipher what's supposed to be where, depending on how good the outlining or how good the job has been done up at that point. But just looking at this, I don't have any identification anywhere, right? There's no subnetting, there's no, what's the, I mean, you can kind of figure it out if you know some level of networking. You can kind of figure out what's going on and where, but at the same point in time, if you've never seen something like this before, you're going to be like a deer in the headlights. And that is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about scenarios where you walk into a training program. I don't care who it's developed by. You walk into a training program where they give you the network diagram. They give you the configurations, both the initial and the final. And the instructor talks about the technology, right? And goes through and, maybe it's a PowerPoint presentation or does a little bit of whiteboarding to help you understand technology ABC. Maybe you kind of get it. Maybe you don't get it at all. Maybe you have to watch a few more videos or watch it a few more times in order for you to oh, okay, now I got you. Or I don't have a freaking clue what this guy's talking about. Regardless of what happens, there's the instruction or the lecture aspect of it, right? And then you have to have the practicality. How do you lab it up? What are you using to lab it up? That type of stuff. So I look at diagrams like this and I say, okay, I still have a lot of work left to do to make this understandable, right? You can't look at this and go, oh, I know exactly what Rob's doing here. I'm the creator of it. Obviously, I know what's going to be what and where. But you don't, as the learner, right? If you're going to watch this video and you're going to be like, I have no clue what Rob's doing here, that's okay. I'm completely okay with you having that thought process. But as someone who understands or built this, I do know what's going on, what my intention was for each thing that we're going to be covering. My job is to then not only help you understand what it is we're going to be doing, but also make it work. So I know the question is going to be coming, well, why would you create content if it's about a particular topic if what you're testing out isn't going to work? Why would you post a video on that? To show you how to figure it out. Because it's funny when you're trying to figure out how to get something to work and how to implement something, and you don't know exactly what it is that you need to get working. You're missing that one command, or you don't quite fully understand that particular what that command's purpose is, and you don't type it in, or you do type it in but you don't know what it's doing. Maybe you're just kind of throwing config at the wall, kind of like you throw paint at the wall to see what's something there. You throw a noodle at the wall to see if it sticks, to see if it's done. So there are things that we will do that, and my goal is not to just upload a bunch of videos that don't work. My goal is to upload a video at some point in the future where, okay, what we did isn't working. How do we fix it? And then identify the problem, and then go through. Because at the beginning of the day, right, when you're going through any deployment, before you do the deployment, you should know the config you're going to be typing in. You should have it pre-laid out. Even if it's only just a couple commands, you should have done the research. You should have, if you could, lab it up to make sure it's going to work. Not everything can be labbed up, and I understand that. You've done your absolute best when it comes to research and understanding, and now it's time to actually implement. How do you verify things are working? How do you know what you're doing is going to work? Well, sometimes there's some guesswork, and you're just hoping for the best because you might not have the ability of labbing it up. Regardless of the situation, you're going to have to try to figure it out. Simple as that. So that's what we're going to be doing here. There's going to be a level of figure it out. I won't have all the answers out of the gate, and I will be bringing in a bunch of different use cases, probably a lot of use cases, and saying, okay, the customer has brought us a new project, and our goal is to implement XYZ. And XYZ might be we needed to set up VXLAN in the data center, or we need to do whatever else I feel like talking about, and going through how all that type of stuff works. The bottom line is going to treat this series as if I'm going to try to simulate my best the client that has a number of projects. They've got a fairly large budget, and they're trying to, over the course of a few years, trying to upgrade their network or deploy new parts of their network. you and I are going to be going through how to do that. And we're not going to be focusing on just one topology. We're going to have several topologies. We're going to have something like this. I mean, I don't know if we're going to actually do these, but a topology where we have a different deployment going on. We have Nexus, and then we have Palos and other stuff like this where we're doing a VXLAN. This is just another topology that I'm working on. But regardless of how we approach it, the bottom line is we're going to be going through and trying stuff out and seeing why did it fail? What do we got to do to fix it? And was it a misconfiguration? Did you type in the wrong command? Did you miss something? What was the problem? Try to get root cause analysis. And then focus on what it is that we need to do in order to get a particular feature implemented. And the bottom line, by the time we're all said and done with this, and we've gone through a number of different network diagrams, where it's not going to be just 20 videos of me talking about getting this topology up and running. It's going to be a number of topologies that we're going to walk through and talk about and understand what's going on, how do you get everything configured, that type of stuff. Because as someone that works in the real world and real world networking, not everything is, very rarely do I ever get a very straightforward request, right? There's always something more to it. Something that you didn't learn in the certification exams, something that you might not have ever done before. And guess what? It's your job as the engineer to figure out how to make it happen. Not everything, obviously the sales team isn't going to put you in an impossible situation, hopefully, but that's where that comes into play. So I'm actually really looking forward to this. It's going to take some time to get created and stuff like that. We're going to have to create documentation as we're going along and what that looks like, and how do we come up with a subnetting plan, what are we going to do about the design, what is needed, what will work, what won't work, that type of stuff. And hopefully by the time we're all said and done with all of these different network designs that I want to work through and get up and running, you will be, and now mind you, it's not just limited to routing and switching and some Palo Altos. Like there's going to be in data center networking. There will be VMware content that goes along with that. There will be NSX content that goes along with that. I'm going to do my best to incorporate a bunch of different other things in it that isn't just focused on core routing and switching, right? Because core routing and switching eventually gets old. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different things. And as I'm sitting here thinking about it, it's like, okay, the customer has a requirement where the firewall 36 is our active HA pair, and we need to set up a site-to-site VPN to R38. And those are going to be the things that are going to be presented as a new requirement, and we have to go get working. We have to get that up and running. So these are the types of stuff that I feel are going to, you're not going to see this anywhere else. At least that's my goal, is to create something that nobody's ever seen before and takes it beyond a pre-built scripted lab that you can just type the commands in by looking at whatever that was on the PDF, and voila, things just magically work. I wanted to take it a step beyond that, because in the real world, no one's building anything for you, right? The network diagram isn't going to be built for you. The configurations aren't going to be built for you. The lab isn't going to be built by an instructor or your manager. You're going to have to do it all. I told this to previous students of mine that they want to download, for example, they would want to download the packet tracer file for a particular lab, and I'm like, sure, I'll give it to you, but why don't you go build it? Why don't you get used to building your own labs? Because if you're reliant on somebody else to build labs, how are you going to test something out? How are you going to execute a proof of value, a proof of concept to your manager if you don't know how to build a lab? So these are some things that I've wanted to do for a very, very long time. I'm actually really excited about this series. If you are as well, please leave a comment in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next video.